With so much confusion going on in the world, so many voices, you have to go on a journey and isolate yourself in order to know what you really think.
Wait, what?
Hey guys. Now, welcome to another great episode of Let's Talk About It. And, I'm feeling really good about this one. Some of the other episodes seem to kind of be a little hard hitting. Trust me, the comments are telling me that, a lot. So, not even listening to that, we're just going to give a little bit of a different episode today. Something to really help people in their own lives and walks. As always, I'm joined by this wonderful live studio audience. Please give yourselves a hand clap. Like I said, this is episode 6, so we have another one before we kind of rest. But in episode 1, I remember one of the first things I came out and said was, I'm an apostle, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm an uncle, I'm a businessman, I'm a CFO, I'm a president, I'm a life coach, I'm also a consultant. There's a lot of titles. That's because we're multifaceted people. We have a lot of things that God has put inside of us and things that we have to use and cultivate. Even as a consultant, one of the questions that I get asked a lot is, how do I do XYZ? How should I proceed with XYZ? And that's the thing. We cannot get places without knowing the right questions and who to ask. And we cannot, without asking those questions, produce fully what God has put in us to produce. So, for today's episode, I do have quite the wonderful guest. You may know her as the person who sits in the front row, but I know her as the host of Live Yielded, and as I affectionately call her, the princess of Revelation Church. So my guest today is the one and only evangelist Benny Divine. Let's give her a hand clap. And she's been very instrumental into helping me produce something that was inside of me. And we're going to hear from her. And by the end of this episode, I hope that you have questions. I hope that you have thoughts. And I hope that if anything, a fire is lit under you to produce, to execute, and to be disciplined with the things that God has placed inside of you. So we'll be right back with the amazing, the talented, the wonderful Benny Divine. We'll see you.
Houston, it is your time. Amen, 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 amen.
God bless you. This is Prophet Lovi Elias. Houston, it is your time. March 31st at the Smart Financial Center in Sugar Land. It's going to be a night of the prophetic deliverance, healing, and it's going to be a restoration season for you. Make sure you mark it down. Make sure you're there March 31st at the Smart Financial Center in Sugar Land in Houston, Texas. God bless you.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Listen, the audience is amazing. Welcome back. So as you know, what we're talking about today is how we are carriers and vessels of these great gifts and talents that God gives us and what we can do to make sure that we're able to honor God in those gifts and talents. See, to some, to just know of your gifts and talents is enough. But to truly honor God is to put those gifts, those talents, those exploits on display. Why? Not for you, for others. So today I'm joined by an amazing guest. She herself is a very multifaceted, multilingual, multi-talented princess of Revelation Church. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the not yet married Benny Devine.
Oh my God! Wow.
That's an intro, right?
That is an intro. You had to do this here because otherwise it would not work. But we'll take it.
All right.
I want LTAI. I'll behave.
So, but there's a reason why I had you on. And that intro is not just to get you off guard and make you feel good. It is because you are truly one of the remarkable gifts that this church does have. We know that we are not doing anything alone. However, you have journeyed here, and in a short period of time, you have touched so many things, and because of that, so many things have also just manifested and prospered, and we're all great beneficiaries of it. So that's why you're here today. Guys, give her another hand for being here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now, for those of you who don't know, you have this amazing show also on this YouTube channel called Live Yielded,
Yes,
right?
Live
right.
Yielded.
So those who have watched that show, they know a little bit about you. But let's just assume that this audience does not know you. Can you please tell them a little bit about yourself so that they may know you? Let me before I even say that, let's start with what we do know. We do know from Papa Lo that this is his little sis, that she prays a lot,
Oh my God.
and that she sleeps with a Bible as her pillow. Now,
No, I don't.
what do you want the people to know coming from you about yourself?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know what else to add to that. I am multifaceted, like you said. Of myself, I say I'm a creative at heart. I just love all things creative. I love the arts. I love to read. I love to cook. I don't know. I'm just me. So.
And she loves God, obviously. You've impacted my life in a way that I did not expect.
Amen.
Just like most people, I was a part of this growing church, and wanting to put everything that I had into the church, and then there was this thing that kept sitting, and this weight I kept feeling, and it was like, okay, you got to produce this thing that's in you, that God's put in you. And by happenstance, I asked you one simple question. I said, do you mind helping me with this thing? And you obliged. What is this thing I'm talking about? Okay, let me help you guys understand something. So before, let me just say it better. There's something that I need. I need to get this something real quick. Go ahead and hand me this. So there was a book. This book that I had the pleasure of writing came at a lot of cost, time, and sacrifice of my own. Leaving a long work day, going home, kissing the baby, kissing the wife, spending like minimal time, and then 9 till like 4 or so in the morning, I'm writing a book. Along the way, I come across this amazing woman of God here who, well, I guess I'll just say it because it's already been revealed. As y'all know, she's the publisher of the In Business and in Dating copy that you see right here.
Yeah.
It's amazing. When you think of her, you just think of worship. You might think of a lot of other things, prayer. You might think of, but when I tell you that she's carrying and operating in the great gifts that God's put in her, and true the words came unto me by the Holy Spirit. But I tell you, what I learned in this thing is you have to be willing to collaborate with people. And people will find a way to bring out the best in you. And you've done that in this book, because not only did we experience best-selling success,
Come on. Woo.
the testimony, you know what? Not only did we experience best-selling success, but because of Patran Publishing, which is your publishing company, the comments and testimonies that I'm getting in daily, it really moves me, and it gives me not just a note of victory, not just a sense of accomplishment, not just a little insert of dopamine, but it gives me this pleasure knowing that I allowed myself to be a vessel in this world, in this life, for something that God put in me to do, and I was able to produce it. And this is where I want to talk to you. Tell me something. When did you get into publishing? How did you come across this part?
Honestly, I think I stumbled into it just from the love of reading. Like I said earlier, I love to read, loved to read growing up.
What's your favorite book? Do you have one from the first one that comes to mind?
The first one that comes to mind that was my favorite for a very long time is The Blind Assassin.
Okay.
If you like to read novels, that book is amazing. And I started reading like that at a very young age. And then when I gave my life to the Lord, then I got into a lot of the Christian books or Christian subjects. But my love for publishing specifically, I remember it was at a previous church where I served. And even before then, when that leader began to want to write, and so I was just involved in the whole writing process. And I realized that because of how much I'd read and written myself, it was easy for me to help somebody convey what they were trying to say. Like I could pick out, like, okay, what you're saying here, this is not clear. Like, what exactly are you trying to say? So let's make that make sense. But not only that, I realized that just in Christendom, if I'll call it that, and how I was talking about my love for the arts and everything, I realized, even when it comes to music, but that's a separate conversation, but very early on, I could see that for some reason when it came to doing things well, it just felt like the secular world was more committed to excellence than the Christian world. And so even when it comes to music, when it came to dance, when it came to the arts, I was like, for some reason, the Christians just didn't seem to always push for that level of excellence that I saw, especially being involved in the arts. You work in your music and your craft, like you're not gonna know, you put work in and you appreciate the work because you appreciate the art that's being put forth. And I just did not see that in the Christian world. And so even when it came to writing material, like sometimes I'll read Christian materials and I'm like, this level of writing, like this typos and this grammatic errors, I'm like, why are you putting this out there? And it would always make me feel some type of way. I was like, nah, like. And so my passion, I think, for the kingdom, even when it comes to the arts or every other thing that I believe the Lord has called me to do, is that, to be able to raise a level of excellence where what we produce in the kingdom can stand to par with what is being produced in the world, so that we can all stand.
Come on. No, listen, I feel that exact sentiment. It pains me when conversations become or projects or works are faith-based, or they're speaking to a Christian audience, and yet, whether it's a book, whether it's a movie, it's like you see where it got soft, the corners got rounded. You see where it's like, oh well, we'll just get it out there to them, And it's like, why is that? Why can't we, and I'm just going to go off here a little bit, why don't we have a movie that speaks to believers with the same budget of a Harry Potter, right? Why is that excellence does not exist all over? But you said a couple things. You're giving me so much to talk about. So I want to touch on really, really quickly, and then we'll maybe get back to the book. But you spend enough time with the book, so we don't have to. You had mentioned, I know on your social media, you actually occasionally go live and you do a video. You're talking about like worship.
Yes.
It's a really big deal to you. And you just mentioned it. What is it about worship that means so much to you and that you want people to know these little tidbits and takeaways?
Oh, man. Well, worship, I think worship for me was my entryway into just the life of faith. That's how it came. Yes, I gave my life to the Lord. I don't really like talking about growing up in church all my life and all that stuff because I think a lot of people say that, but it didn't mean anything.
It doesn't
so
count for
what I
nothing,
was
right?
in church, that it really didn't impact me. Yes, I was, but it didn't mean anything. But I recognized the time that now, like, I was actually like, okay, God, I want you. Like, I want to be yours, you know? And so that's happened at a specific point in my life. But then why worship specifically is so important is recognizing that it was more than music. One of the first ways that I recognized my gifting was the gift of music, and specifically writing music. And I was very, very young when I started writing songs. I was very young when I started to sing. And just in my journey with God, I remember a time of my life when I was just like out there doing my own thing and I could write so easily. And I remember one day I was just like, man, God, like I'm starting to feel this pull, like there's more to this life than this, like there's gotta be more. And I sat down to try and write a song and I could not write and I freaked out. I said, God has left me, that's it. And that was my run back to God. I was like, you cannot leave me, Lord. But just because of how easy it used to come to me. And so when that could happen, I just freaked out. I know now that it wasn't the case, but it worked.
So you still write a little bit?
Yeah, I still write.
Okay,
I still
good,
write.
good, good.
But so in coming to the Lord, then when I was set up to, okay, be a worship leader, I was just like, God, I don't know how to do this. Like, yes, I've been in church, yes, I've been singing, but to be a worship leader, like to lead, you're going to have to teach me. That's literally how I came to him. I said, okay, God, if I'm going to accept this, you're going to have to teach me what this thing is so I can do it right because I have absolutely no idea what it is. And so Holy Spirit just began to take me through things and to show me and to teach me a lot of things about worship. And really the life of the person in anything we do, I came to realize for us as believers, matters so much for the output that you will put. And so I began to understand that more than just me standing up there and holding a mic or playing an instrument, everything else that happened behind the scenes mattered for whatever would happen in that moment. Like that moment is so short. Whether it's a 15-minute time slot, you're given a 30-minute, even if it's a 2-hour time slot, it's just a fraction of everything else that it takes for you to be able to sustain that time that's given to you. And so that's really all that the Lord has been teaching me and continues to teach me. And then being under this great house and you have somebody like Prophet Lovi, the same thing. And it's like, through him, I'm also learning more and more just the posture of grace and receiving, to recognize that it's not me who's doing anything and it's God, but I am responsible in taking care of that which is given to me.
Come on.
And so it's not that, oh, I'm going to do the work so that the output comes. No, but it's recognizing that in me being that vessel that can be used for that, there is a way that I will handle that thing that has been given to me. And so
that's wild.
Yeah.
Give her. You know, I like to say, drop some fires. Please drop some fires, some hearts for what you just shared. No, because you're touching on. There's a connectivity. There's a connective tissue amongst certain individuals, like-minded individuals, and you begin to journey in purpose together. You begin to accomplish things quicker and easier. And so a part of me, and I know what you're talking about, but I also see you put all these things into effect. Like the entire church loves you. And they don't even, honestly, because what you get, like she just talked about worship. But did you also know she teaches? You also know she can preach. You also know that she's in the back office. It's like there's so much you're doing. And another thing you touched on, and I want to ask you, it's like if I don't ask you any other question, I want to ask you this question, because you're really someone that I think a lot of people, not just women. I'm not going to regulate you to just women, but there's a lot of people can look up to. How do you define excellence? Because you mentioned excellence. You mentioned the Christian works and examples you would see, and you saw kind of the somewhat attempt, but then you will turn and you'll look at a fictional novel or something, and it's like, wow. How do you define excellence based on what your eyes have seen and based on what you know?
I really love that you asked that question, because I think a lot of people have or have confused excellence with perfection.
Okay.
I think a lot of times
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it, okay? A lot of times when we say excellence, people think you're saying perfection, and that is not. They're not the same thing. And excellence in its simplest form is you giving your best. You giving your best. And wherever you give your best, there will always be that push to know that I've given my absolute all to this thing to make it the best. And that's why it's easy to see a disparity when you compare a secular thing to a kingdom product, because even just for yourself, you look at it and say, if you really gave your best to this thing, like, you'll pay attention to the details. If you gave your best to this thing, you will care about how it is put forth. You will care about what it looks like. You will care about how it is conveyed. And so it's not about you trying to be perfect, but you being your best. And so when it comes to whatever you do yourself, like, there's that voice on the inside of you. You know, it's like you put this book out, but if you hadn't put your best in it, like, forget that it didn't become a bestseller. But there would always have been something in you to say, dang, I could have done this. I could have done that better. Like, I could have read through that one more time. You know, like, I could have maybe tried to show this to somebody else to give me that. There will be that voice.
There's
like,
that
we
voice.
know when we haven't done our best.
Yeah.
It's like when you're trying to set discipline for yourself, or wake up and go work out or something, there's always going to be that voice that is telling you actually didn't do your best. And so excellence is you giving your best. Doing the absolute best that you can do, and especially for us as believers, knowing that I did my best so that then God can do his part. Because
that's it.
What I can do, God is not going to do. So I'm going to do everything that I'm left to do so that then God will do his part.
Is this, let's talk about this, Liv yielded. What are we doing? Wow. I want to, how much time? I want to touch on a couple of things you said there. Which way do we go? Which way do we go? Wow. Okay. All right. Okay, this is the question.
Okay.
All right, because it's like two, but I'm going to ask this one first. Why do people, this is the better question. What keeps people from giving their best? In your opinion?
I think the biggest thing is fear and not believing that you're worth what's on the other side, that you can have what's on the other side of that. And so I was thinking about this last night, actually, so it's crazy that you're asking about this. I just went on a tangent, and I was thinking of imposter syndrome and what that looks like and how that translates into people. And I think that fear, you know, there's a quote, and I might misquote it, but if you remember, you can help me correct it, that says, don't say, oh, what if I don't get it? What if it doesn't work out? But then it says, what if you do? What if it does work out? What if you can get it? You know? And so many of us don't think of the men, what if I actually get it? And so because your mind is not even fully, it's like we leave a little gap because we don't want to be disappointed. So we kind of don't want to put our whole hope into that thing. Like, I don't want my feelings to be crushed. I don't want my hopes to be crushed. I don't want my dreams. So I'm not going to fully embrace what that could be, so that even if it doesn't work out, then I'm not completely devastated. And so I think that's a big part of that, why people don't give their best, because it's like, I don't want to put it all in and then it fail. Like, so let me just do some, and but I'm not going to go all in. But then it's the mindset, because really, if you fully believe it, you will not help but to give your best. Because when you're a businessman, like, I think of the businesses I've done, even in times when it didn't work out, but I was so fully committed. Like, you will sacrifice for that dream. Like, people will look at you like, why are you doing this? Like, the hours you put in, like, something will not work out. You're back at it again in the morning because you fully believe in that thing.
Yeah.
So you are giving your best to what you fully believe. So I think people not wanting to give their best is really because they haven't fully embraced and accepted the reality of what could be on the other side. And so
That's good.
you're not willing to put all
That's
all
good.
in it. Yeah.
That's good. I've come to know and come to learn that because of the fear thing you're talking about, oftentimes there are things that people know that they should do, and they don't do it because of what you're saying, fear of it happening or fear of it not happening. But what I've also discovered is there is a great proportion of people that feel that the thing that they know or feel they should do is the thing that they hang all of their successes on. That, I'll just say it like this. You have to be more committed to doing what's in you and putting it out versus hanging success on the one thing that you do have.
Yeah.
Because once you put that one thing out, the world, the market that you're putting it out might say, cool, but that's not it. That's not all. Is there more? But you hesitated, delayed, waited, all of it. You know what? I should have been did it. I knew I should have done it 10 years ago, but I just know my life's going to change. No, you need to put it out there to see if your life is going to change. Because once you put it out there and you see that, oh, wow, I put it out there on a Monday and Tuesday came like a normal Tuesday, you got to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's that fear of that failure, yes, but then there's that fear of success. Then there is unpreparedness for what all there is to offer. And I want to ask you this because I know your time is precious unto the Lord. It's all, isn't it not? Isn't it? And this is a personal question. Why are you so driven? Because I know why I'm driven.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you might as well consider it's a chip on my shoulder. You know, I started school as a stutterer. I always felt like I had to prove to people that I was smart. You know, I wasn't in the AG, academically gifted classes, but I was like, I'm just as bright. And it's just, I've been, you know, even down to the writing, I was told that I wasn't essentially a good writer. So there's just these, and when I say chip, it's not a story of vengeance. It's like, I know who God made me to be. You can't label me anything. You won't label me anything. And if you label me anything, label me all that God has said, which is you're wonderful, you're beautifully made. But if you start to say that I cannot do something, that you won't do something, I mean, I've heard just throughout life, just different ones trying to cast different things on me. I even had someone tell me I wasn't going to finish college. It was so many different, while in college, it's like so many different things. I'm like, why do you think, do I just have this thing written on me saying, say whatever you want to say to me? Because it all it does is add that log that to the fire. Yeah. So I know what drives me. What drives me is dying empty.
Oh my gosh, that's it.
I remember a famous Dr. Miles Monroe quote. He says that the richest place is in the graveyard. And so I'm driven by, I don't care what you say about me. I'm going to tell you what I'm driven by if I had to sum it up. I don't want to die, and all they say is, JT was a good man. He would give the coat off his back to anyone who he met. He wouldn't harm a fly. Even if those things are true, it means I actually did nothing. That's the courtesy things that people say when you just lived and you died. So it may be a little selfish, but maybe it's a little, you know, a little extra, but that's what drives me is those things. So I set that up to give you all the time you needed to answer, not to try to follow, but why are you so driven? Because I see your excellence. I literally see your excellence in every turn. Why are you so driven?
First of all, you took the words right out of my mouth. That was it. Like, I wanted, I empty. I think I recognized that God had given me a little bit of extra, you know? And sometimes it's like, why am I good at this? Why can I also do this? Why? And while you can't really be good at everything, you know, you can't. But then to actually be aware that, man, I have multiple things that God has given me, and I have to be a good steward of those, and I have to give account of those. Like, I'm going to have to stand before Him and say what I did with it. So it's like, it puts, first of all, this reverence and fear in you that I do not want to stand up there before Him and tell Him that I didn't know what I was doing. You remember the parable of the talents?
Yes.
I don't want to be that person.
Yes.
And so I think just that understanding slowly, it even is what even unveiled the other things that I could do by just being faithful in the one thing and saying, okay, I'm going to be committed in this thing that I see. And as other things came, I was like, okay, God, like, I want to be a good steward unto you. So just giving it all back to Him. And honestly, living life as unto the Lord, which is what Scripture tells us to do, will make you driven.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the ultimate inspiration that you need. Like, the wake up in the morning and really living your life unto the Lord, it will push you out. I've had laziness bouts. I've had times when I didn't want to do nothing. I've had all of that. But when you really think like, okay, this is unto the Lord, it gets you up. Like, it gets you up.
Nah, that's
because you have to give an account.
You are a spirit. You have to give an account.
You have to give an account.
You know, there's a famous quote, I believe it's Mark Twain. You know, it's not the Bible, in case anyone. And you know what? People often get this quote and use it the wrong way. Like, y'all have heard the quote, "A jack of all trades is a master of none," right?
Yeah.
Most people are using that as
only the first part too.
Yeah, they're just using the first part, right? They're only using it as a way to say, focus on one thing. You're not good at stuff. Like, you don't need to be good at everything. But the whole quote actually says, "Jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than the master of one."
Yeah.
So the full quote says, "A jack of all trades is the master of none, but oftentimes better than the master of one."
Yeah.
It doesn't mean go out and start multitasking. No. It just means there are gifts and things you must cultivate because there are doors that are going to be open unto you, and then there are places that you have to take those gifts, because if you live in excellence, and there's one thing I've always subscribed to is this: it doesn't matter whether my first job, I believe, was at McDonald's doing the fries, to even today, I never worried or stressed about what was next. I always said, maximize here, maximize now, and then when it's time to move on, the levels have always increased, number one. But when it was time to move on, I already knew that I was going to do the same. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. You practice excellence when no one is looking.
That's it. That's it.
And I even have, as my email signature, I'm going to do my best even when no one's looking, as a reminder to me to stay in this place of excellence. So you've been an excellent guest.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. Please give her a hand.
Thank you so much.
You know, you can't be in the presence of greatness without them having a schedule and stuff to do, so she has to go, or otherwise the conversation would continue. But before you go, tell the people, as if they don't already know, how they can find you, get in contact with you, where they can find you, etc.
You can find me right here on Wednesdays at 11 a.m.
on
Live Yielded,
Live Yielded, okay,
on the Revelation Church LA YouTube channel. But I'm on Instagram, Benny Blessed. I'm online. You can come to my website, www.bennydivine.com. You'll get to see a little bit of my writing. I like to blog every once in a while. So
that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Ladies and gentlemen, the evangelist Benny Divine. Thank
you
you for
so
coming
much.
here. And we'll be right back with the final thoughts. Welcome back to the Solo Game Show. I'm Johnny. Tell them what you want. And with the final round, here's the question. This goes to Joe. Tell me why people in the church are still singing.
Okay, so we got down.
Okay, Pops, let's hear it.
Tell you what's going on. Let me get home. Tell you what. Excuse me, son. My leg way. I'm a little tired. Here's the thing. The reason why folks is singing in the church, okay, and for one thing, they ain't right with the Lord. That's one. And two, folks ain't got no jobs. Now, reason being you ain't got no job, how you gonna tithe if you ain't got no job? So when you ain't got the tithe, you ain't got the tithe. First okay.
Judges?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, Pops. Ladies, you have a chance to still hear. Why are some people in the church still singing? You got an answer?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear it.
Men are just chickens.
Judges, are men chickens? I'm sorry, ain't no chicken over here. Listen, come to the Solo Game Night edition where you don't have to worry about sitting here answering questions, any awkwardness. You can come for the games, the food, the music, and most importantly, the fellowship. Solo Game Night edition, February 14th at 7 p.m. We'll see you there. Welcome back. And now are my final thoughts. You know, I had an amazing, wonderful conversation with Benny. It's always a good time when I get a chance to chat with her. As a matter of fact, watch an episode of Live Yielded. You never know when I might pop up over there again. But yeah, today's episode, today's subject matter is one that I believe all need to hear. You know, being in excellence, walking in excellence, using your gifts, showcasing your talents, it's something that has to be cultivated. You know, like even myself, I shared that there's a chip on my shoulder. Now that chip comes from a necessary place. Even God knew I would take that as a chip because it was going to help drive me to the things that He wanted me to do. There's so many motivating factors and demotivating factors in life. But how you see life and the way you approach life all will help either those things be to your detriment or they will be rockets. They will be propulsion. They will be elevators to your destiny. I want to show you guys something here in the scripture regarding these gifts, talents, and excellence. I want you to go to Matthew 25, and we're going to start at verse 19. Now, I'm going to set this up for you. We all know this parable of the men with the talents and how the master gave his servants a certain amount of talents and left. And then when he came back, there were different results. So at this point, the talents have already been distributed, and let's see what happens when the master come back. So Musa, my good man, if you can start at verse 19, please.
Why,
Matthew 25:19.
Matthew 25:19.
Mm-hmm.
After a long time, the Lord of those servants cometh and reckoneth with them. Mm-hmm. And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. Mm-hmm. His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord.
Mm-hmm.
He also that received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them.
Mm-hmm.
His Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant.
Mm-hmm.
Thou hast been faithful over few things, I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. Then he which had received the 1 talent came and said to the Lord, I knew thee that thou art a man, a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was afraid, and hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, there thou hast that is thine.
Stop right there. Oftentimes when this passage of Scripture is read, most people think of talents in their personal way, their personal experience. I mean, it is a pretty universal word. It has a universal meaning. You can think of your natural talents and your gifts. You can also think of, oftentimes it's used in respects of money, right? But when you look up the Greek word here for talents, it's talenton. And one of the definitions is a weight at varying times. You know, in the conversation with Bidding here, she said, you know, there are certain things that you know you should do, and you hear a voice, and that voice says, and something is, we all know what that something is. When you think of a weight at varying times, I want you to think of a scale. Once this happens, it's something that needs to go here. Once this happens, it's something that needs to go here. It goes like this. Now I want you to think of pressure. What happens when a weight falls upon you? Some of those who work out, go to the gym, they know exactly what I'm talking about. When you're on that bench press or when you're on that lat pull down, whatever the case may be, when you feel that weight, you know you have to lift it. So just the same, God has given you talents, and he causes a weight at varying times to fall upon you. But are you lifting the weight? Or are you getting used to it? Are you adapting to it? Are you allowing the weight to weigh you down? The weight is never intended to hinder you, to keep you stuck. The weight is meant for the moment you feel it to start pushing, to start producing. It takes a certain mindset to when they feel that weight, they know they got to get to work. You know, when I was writing the book, and I've said this too many times, but I would work a full work day, and I would go home into the wee hours of the night from like 9 p.m. to like 4 or 5 in the morning. I am writing away. Why? It's because that weight was so heavy. I cannot sleep knowing this weight is on me. Now, God will permit you at times to not feel anything. Remember, it's a weight at varying times. But he also wants to see what you will do. Because even as the text here says, and we're not going to, you know this passage, you saw the 5 beget 5 more. You saw the 2 beget 2 more. But you saw the 1 who did nothing with the weight, bury it. And you saw the master take from them and give to others. There are many people that you went to school with. There's many people that you saw growing up, whether it's on the playground. You know, there's always this saying, man, there's a Michael Jordan on the playground somewhere. You might remember that, the smartest kid in your class. And you see them today and you're like, what happened? They buried that weight. They let it weigh them down. The whole point of this episode today is for you to come alive, to start pushing again. When you feel that weight, push. Pushing will allow production to happen. Once you produce something, you move on to the next thing. But now you have developed a discipline. Now you have a language and a way in which God speaks to you. I feel that weight. I got to go. I feel that weight. I got to go do it. You know what? Your husband, your wife, your sister, your brother, they may not understand what is going on at that time. But I promise you, it will cause you to produce something. And it is better to produce what God has put in you to produce than to bury what he wants you to do. Lastly, I'll say this. You know, this morning, and oftentimes I wake up with occasionally I wake up with a thought at about 6 a.m. It's like clockwork. And now I've just gotten into the practice of just writing it down. And I'll post it, you know, and I want to share with people. But this morning's thought was why we shouldn't allow procrastination. The longer you put something off, the harder it is to produce it. Why is that? Because the heart already knows how to accept credit for the intent of an act, even when the body has yet to complete the actual task. Though intention is good, execution should always be the goal. When will you push yourself to do it? Or will you allow intent alone to be acceptable for you? I hope today's episode really opened up your thought a little bit, really helped get the conversation going. Now would be a great time to simply evaluate where you are, what you've done, what you still have planned to do. Look at that list and get going. I'll give you a simple tip, because I get this all the time. Oh, I just got so much I want to do. God is speaking to me about so many different things. I don't know what to do. Let me explain something to you. All God is telling you is to learn discipline and start with one, because he plans on having you busy for a long time. That's why he's showing you so much. But you, just like those with the talents, he's trusting you to know what to administer your time to, what to give your thoughts, your energy toward, and what not. So, did y'all like the show today? It was a fun time. It was definitely a fun time. And as you know, with this show, with Live Yielded on this channel, if you want to see more, continue to support, you should see some information below to do that. Also, if you want to stay in contact with me, you can go to jtboyd.co. There you can see all that I have going on. You can also sign up for the newsletter. Right now, I'm doing a 4-week discussion group on In Business and in Dating. It is amazing. You can go to the website. You can see that each week there's a curriculum. And on every Friday, we sit down and we talk for an hour. So, and I do questions and answers. And the last class was amazing. And the women on those calls, the men on those calls were just saying how they wish we could do more. So take this as an opportunity to sign up and let's go in depth and let's really turn some things around. I had fun. I enjoyed you today. And as always, I want to say hello to my beautiful mother and my handsome father, and to your parentals and your uncle and auntie, to your cousins, to your brothers, to your sisters, to your friends. And you know what? I don't mention your neighbors enough. I want to say to your neighbors, whether they nosy or friendly, let them know that it is time to talk. And listen, when it's time to talk, let's talk about it. All right, we'll see you guys next time. This is episode 6. We got one more. Let's go. Love you guys. We'll see you next time.